Normally this live stream takes time to start picking up my voice. So um, I think the intro is very important because I want to give you guys like an somewhat of an index, basically, of what this live stream will entail. So basically, I'm obviously going to break down the fight between Israel Adesanya versus Dricus Du Plessis, but I'm going to speak from a South African's perspective, right? I'm South African, so obviously a lot of you know that. Um, this video might potentially attract people who probably are not MMA fans. So this basically relates to a UFC fight that's happening currently. So it's obviously between a South African as well as a Nigerian. So I want to give you guys a unique perspective from a South African point of view and why I feel like the UFC missed a massive opportunity to make this fight significantly bigger. Um, Let me start off by saying if this fight was taking place in South Africa, believe you me, it would have been probably 10 times bigger than it is right now. And let me explain this. Let me give you a brief history of why I'm saying this. So, Nigeria and South Africa have this unspoken feud, as like that's the best way I can say it. So, in South Africa, obviously, I've said what I'm South African. So, in South Africa, we've had an issue with a lot of immigrants, mainly from Nigeria, who come into South Africa, and a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them end up, committing crimes like drugs and all these type of things, right? So there was this thing of South Africans who randomly attacked, not randomly, but basically they didn't like anyone who was from outside of South Africa. So, okay, I'm not articulating that properly, but basically there was a beef. That's the best way I can say it. So what what ended up happening was South Africa was labeled as xenophobic and all these type of things. So long story short, this was or rather local celebrities started to participate. I think that there was a celebrity that was involved in all of this that probably you guys might know. It's in the music section, which is Burna Boy. I think a lot of you know Burna Boy. So Burna Boy once called the South Africans um, xenophobic and all these type of things. And then there was a local musician, a rapper who was assassinated at this point, who basically fought against that. But what do you call him? AKA. So the reason I'm giving you guys this backstory is for you to understand why I say this fight would have been significantly bigger in South Africa. So yeah, there's this back and forth basically between. So recently, when I say recently, I'm talking about like a couple of weeks ago. There was a Miss South Africa pageant, right? I'm sure every country has that. As far as my knowledge goes, there probably is Miss America and all these type of things. So there was this Nigerian girl who supposedly had a South African mother, and who entered the Miss South Africa competition, right? So South Africans didn't like that because basically their argument was that she doesn't necessarily represent South Africa because her culture, if you look at everything about her, it says Nigeria and not South Africa. Right, so there was this whole controversy. Local celebrities took sides and all these type of things until the government intervened, and it was discovered that her mom, the mom to this particular lady who was in the Miss South Africa thingy, actually stole the identity of a South African when they came into South Africa. So as a result, she was disqualified, and they are currently investigating that particular situation, which will probably result in arrest, right? So on social media, it was a back and forth between South Africans and Nigerians, right? So that brings me to why I say this fight would have been significantly bigger if it was in South Africa. Everything that I'm speaking about right now happened about 2 weeks ago, a week ago, 2 weeks ago. So Miss South Africa just ended, I think, about a couple of days ago. If so, the UFC would have came in South Africa and built this fight as Nigeria versus South Africa, it would have been massive because it would have been basically capitalizing on the feud. I think I don't want to use the wrong words. The feud that has been happening for a couple of years now, and it would have been unrelated to the UFC, but it would have contributed to what basically was happening in South Africa. So basically, that's one of the biggest reasons why I feel like this fight is a little bit bigger than. That's why the cover or rather the thumbnail says it's bigger than the UFC. Basically, in my opinion, because it's it has a long history, basically. So let's get to the actual fight and what I think about it. Obviously, okay, let me not say obviously. I picked Dricus Du Plessis. My subscribers picked Israel Adesanya, right? I didn't pick Dricus Du Plessis because I'm South African. If you follow my channel, you probably know that when Peyton Talbot was fighting Cameron Simon, I actually picked Peyton Talbot to actually win that fight. So for me, I'm patriotic, but when it comes to my channel, I make sure that I focus on accuracy as opposed to patriotism because I want to be the best at what I'm doing. So for those who are saying I picked as a Nigerian, I'm really disappointed with the way South Africans treated the issue. Nigerians have bent with Ghana, but it would have never gone that route if the issue happened in Ghana. I understand and I get what you mean, but I think you have to also understand from a South African's perspective. It's that I don't know how other countries view South Africa, right? But it seems as if everyone is trying to move here. So it's not necessarily only focused on Nigerians. It's basically almost every foreign nation now, basically. Um, because if you recall, there was an issue. There was a time whereby South Africans had an issue with Indians who were opening shops locally, basically because they were and the biggest issue is that they are making money from South Africa and then they are taking it overseas, which is crippling the economy. So it's not necessarily isolated to Nigerians. I don't want to get too deep into this particular topic, but it's so much bigger than just specifically Nigerians. And I think what amplified this whole situation with the Miss South Africa issue was because the lady was basic. I think she posted. I didn't fact check this, but I think she posted something like, "No one is going to stop her from participating in this particular pageant," and all these type of things. So, and even how she celebrated, eh, a lot of South Africans felt like she doesn't represent them. So I honestly cannot blame them for feeling like we want someone who we can see ourselves in, you know. But anyway, let me get to the fight. Let me try to respond. Opinions on Dana talking about going to Africa for the first African pay-per-view. I think it makes sense. I heard him speaking about the fight between Israel Adesanya versus Dricus Du Plessis. He said the outcome of that fight will determine when an African pay-per-view will happen. I think it will most likely happen in South Africa because I heard Dana White saying, um, I know a lot of people don't think South Africa is real Africa. I don't know who says that. But nonetheless, I heard him saying that. But I think he said that he's probably going to come to South Africa. And I heard the Minister of Sports in South Africa saying that he is waiting or going to be in communication with Dana White as it relates to bringing the UFC to South Africa. So I think the probability of an African pay-per-view happening this year or probably early next year is extremely highly possible, especially if Dricus Du Plessis manages to win that fight. All right. So let me get to the fight between Israel Adesanya versus Dricus Du Plessis, right? As I explained, I didn't pick Dricus Du Plessis because I'm South African. If you know me and if you know my channel, you know I've picked against a couple of other South Africans. The biggest reason why I feel like Dricus Du Plessis has a shot at actually winning this fight is largely because I think people underestimate how good he is because of how unusual he fights, right? He doesn't seem like he knows what he's doing when he's fighting. Um, and that's why it's easy to feel like this guy is not good. I also used to feel that way. When he came into the UFC, I was obviously excited. I was like, oh my God, a South African in the UFC. I was so flippin' happy. But after seeing him fight a couple of times, I was like, damn, this guy is going to get beaten up when he gets into the top five, right? And then he kept on fighting, he kept on fighting. When he was supposed to fight Derek Brunson, I was like, no, Derek Brunson is going to probably beat him, right? And then he proved me wrong. I wasn't sold at that point. And then he fought Darren Till. And then I was like, Darren Till has been fighting, has been training with Hamza Chimaev. Darren Till, like he's made a big deal of him coming back, and because he had a long layoff. So, and there was this thing of Smash Brothers that had taken over the MMA community. Everyone wanted to know about this whole thing between like Hamza Chimaev training with Darren Till and all these type of things. So in my head, I was like, okay, Darren Till is going to come back significantly better and he's going to win that fight. He beat Darren Till. I still wasn't sold on him because for the most part, I was like, but he still guesses out, right? But something changed when he was about to fight. Um, what do you call him, Robert Whittaker? Because I picked him to beat Robert Whittaker. I wasn't very confident because if you like I always say, if you follow my channel, you know that I have a prediction analysis strategy that I follow when I pick fights, right? And which has worked significantly well for me. Last week I got 11 out of 13. This week I got 8 out of 10. So it's working pretty well. So I I analyzed the fight and I used my strategy. And the strategy said Dricus Du Plessis. And then I was like, no, there's no way it's going to happen. But after doing a little bit more extensive research, because I didn't trust that that was actually accurate, right? I did a little bit more research, and it turns out Dricus Du Plessis might not be the most dynamic striker. He might not be the most impressive striker, but that doesn't mean he's not effective in what he does, right? If you look at his striking accuracy, it's almost the same as Israel Adesanya. If you look at his striking defense, similarly. So, despite the fact that he doesn't move very well, or he's not, his fighting style is not aesthetically pleasing. It's easy to confuse it with lack of skill, right? It's easy to look at Dricus Du Plessis and say this guy does not know how to fight, and that's essentially why I think, okay, let me not discredit it by saying that. I wanted to say that's potentially why Robert Whittaker got knocked out so quickly, because he probably felt too overconfident, right? But I honestly don't think that's the case. I feel like Dricus Du Plessis is a very difficult puzzle for a lot of people to solve, because he fights like he doesn't know how to fight, but he's extremely efficient. He's extremely effective with what he does. Um, the biggest reason why I picked him number one is because I feel like he has a lot of power between him and Israel Adesanya. I feel like he has a lot of power. I know that Israel Adesanya has 16 knockouts, um, but it was a while ago. It was early in his career. Once he got into the top 10, okay, let me not say the top 10, but in the top 10, I think the people that he knocked out, of course, I mean, he had a really fast, he was fast tracked to the title. So obviously he didn't fight that many people once he got into the top 10. But I feel like the main ranked fighters that Israel Adesanya was able to knock out were, that I can recall, it's Derek Brunson, it's Paulo Costa, it's Robert Whittaker, and it's Alex Pereira. It's four people, right? Um, it's impressive, but I don't know, man. And I feel like the Alex Pereira knockout, and I'm not discrediting what Israel Adesanya did, right? I've been, if you go back to my videos, I've been the one who said, between, when we look at skill for skill, when we talk about the best kickboxer between Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira, I've always said that Israel Adesanya is the better kickboxer. However, Alex Pereira has so much power that it compensates for the fact that Israel Adesanya is a little bit better. That's why if you look at the initial fight in the UFC, and even outside of the UFC, Israel Adesanya was winning a lot of those exchanges until obviously he got finished in those particular fights. That's essentially why I feel like Israel Adesanya is the better kickboxer. However, I feel like the knockout against Alex Pereira was a little bit different for me, because he was playing possum. That knockout didn't come because of, obviously it requires skill for Israel Adesanya to be able to execute what he did against Alex Pereira, but it wasn't because of pure skill. It was because of fight IQ. Yeah, I'd say it was because of fight IQ, because Israel Adesanya pretended to be hurt, and then Alex Pereira took the bait, and then Israel Adesanya knocked him out. So for me, that one is a little bit tricky for me to accept as a skillful knockout, because Israel Adesanya was playing possum. So I would give credit to his fight IQ. That kind of move will probably not work against anyone else, because we know he was pretending, and I'm sure Dricus Du Plessis is going to be careful when it comes to that. So when we talk about power, for me, in contrast, I mentioned that Israel Adesanya only knocked out about four people, and this last one, I feel some way about it, but it's four people, right? And granted, two of them are really good fighters. Right? Alex Pereira is an incredible knockout win for him. Robert Whittaker is an incredible knockout win for him. And Polo Costa, when was the last time Polo Costa won a fight? I mean, he's looked good recently, but it's kind of hard for me to look at a knockout of Polo Costa and say, "Wow, that was impressive." And I think that's why the UFC has moved away from trying to make Hamza Chimaev fight Polo Costa, because they want Hamza Chimaev to actually get the belt, but beating Polo Costa does not give you a title shot. So on the other hand, when we look at Dricus Du Plessis, he's been knocking almost everyone out. He finished Derek Brunson. He finished Darren Till. He finished Robert Whittaker. Um, Even in within once he got into the rankings, he managed to find a way to actually finish the fights, which for me says that he has the ability to finish a fight on a high level. And because of that, Israel Adesanya is too calculative for me, and I feel like it's going to cost him. One of two things is going to happen. Israel Adesanya is going to fight emotionally, um, and I think Israel Adesanya, there's a possibility that he might come into this fight thinking, I'm either going to win or I'm going to retire. If Israel Adesanya loses this fight, I I have a feeling that he might retire, right? Because it will be two losses in a row for him. I saw him. He built like an apartment building somewhere in New Zealand. Um, okay, let me reply to you guys before I continue. Have you watched the Ultimate Fighter this year? The two South Africans did horrible. Why are you being mean, dude? Why are you being mean? Yeah, I saw that. It broke my heart, but there are some talented fighters, like Ige Gabesa. Guys, like if you get a chance, there's an interview of Ige Gabesa on the channel. I've interviewed him. He's currently the lightweight and featherweight champion in the EFC, the promotion that Dricus Du Plessis was also a double champion before he came into the UFC. Ige Gavisa is probably one of the most talented fighters in South Africa, for me personally. There are exceptionally talented fighters that I've seen so far that I've interviewed on this channel. I could rank them, but I have a somewhat of a relationship with them, so I don't want to mess with that. So I get what you're saying about the Ultimate Fighter, but the people that were on the Ultimate Fighter were not champions in the regional scene. Oh yeah, Mark Hume was actually a champion. I made a mistake with that. Mark Hume was the welterweight champion. Um, but I don't want to say anything badly about those guys because they are really talented. Just that I feel like it didn't go their way. Anyway, let me not get sidetracked by by that. I got the 400 on Drake. $400, man. Are you sure? Even though I'm picking Dricus Du Plessis, I feel like it's going to be an extremely close fight. If you value your money, just stay away from this fight, guys. Like, it's not worth it because it's a literal coin flip for me personally. It's a literal coin flip because the advantages that I feel like Dricus Du Plessis has are, are minimal, even though and obviously it's a game of inches basically. In when it comes to fighting, the slightest advantage that you have over your opponent could potentially be the reason why you actually end up winning the fight. Things like, even though people feel like Israel Adesanya has cardio, I disagree with that. Look at his fights when it gets to when it gets to the the fourth and fifth round. Israel Adesanya looks gassed in almost every single fight he has. Right, so I don't feel like Israel Adesanya has good cardio, and that's basically why Alex Pereira was able to catch him in the fifth round. It's because what do you call him? Izzy does not have good cardio, and I don't feel like him putting on more mass or muscle. It's not gonna help him because it means he's going to have to cut down to middleweight, which is probably going to drain him. Dricus Du Plessis is used to his own body. He's been cutting down and he's used to actually cutting down to middleweight. So I don't know if what Israel Adesanya is doing with packing on more muscle is going to be effective because he's doing something he wasn't doing for the majority of his career. Maybe I guess the fact that he has been out for so long, he's been able to actually do it the right way and bulk up the right way. But I don't know. And we can't overlook the fact that Israel Adesanya is 35 years old. And I know that recently Bilal Mohammed actually broke that curse, but it's not necessarily even about a curse. It's a statistic. It's human nature. Human beings get old, and as you get older, you won't be able to perform at a certain level. That's how it is. Unfortunately, the older you get, you lose your speed, you lose your ability to take a punch. There are so many things that deteriorate as you grow older. That's why I've been repeating this for I don't know how long. At championship level, it's hard to win a title above 35. That's why fighters like Alex Pereira are impressive. I want to say fighters also like Michael Bisping, but man, he did it in an era whereby I feel like fighters were not as well rounded. Like it's harder to be an MMA champion today because everyone is so elite. It's more impressive for people like Alex Pereira to do it, Alex Pereira and Glover Teixeira. But granted, I mean, like the light heavyweight division is not that great. I mean, you can't point out that many excellent fighters in that division, except maybe Ankalaev. Um, Jiri, Jiri is good offensively, not necessarily defensively. Who else? I mean, Jamal Hill is not that bad, so I guess we can count him as well. Who else? There aren't that many great fighters in there. Carlos Ulberg is probably going to be one of the highly ranked fighters who will do exceptionally well. Alexander Rakic, yeah, I think that just about sums up the whole light heavyweight division. So there aren't that many incredible fighters in the light heavyweight division. So, but still, I feel like it was impressive. So and if you look, and I always repeat this every single time, if you look at major champions, like long reigning champions, when did they lose their belts? You don't have to go back like far back years ago. It was when they were approaching the age of 35 or when they were 35 years old. Look at Kamaru Usman. Look at Valentina Shevchenko. Look at Amanda Nunes. Look at when these people lost their belts. It's not like they were not as good. It's because their bodies are not what they used to be. And that's why I respect the people. And even though people don't agree with what Habib Nurmagomedov did, I respect him for what he did because he was smart enough to know that I'm not going to be able to compete at my peak forever, so I need to leave before the sport retires me. And if people, I don't get why people are so mad at Habib when you see people like Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson is one of the most heartbreaking examples of the sport retiring you, and it's horrible. Anyway, I've gotten sidetracked. So one of the reasons why I basically went on a rant basically about age is because I'm trying to highlight the fact that age has influenced fights, right? Statistically speaking, age influences fights, right? So if you're like, nah, that doesn't matter. Maybe if Israel Adesanya was 35 at the light heavyweight or heavyweight, I'd say, okay, it's so and so, like, but middleweight, I don't know, man. Another issue is I feel like Israel Adesanya is taking this too personally, um, and I don't feel like Dricus Du Plessis is taking it as personally. So that might potentially make him fight impulsively because he he has to prove something. I feel like Israel Adesanya has a lot of pressure on him, and I know that a lot of people say, "Well, Israel Adesanya, when he's a contender, he is probably one of the most dangerous fighters you can ever encounter," and there is some validity to that argument, but he's not what he used to be, man. Even the motivation is no longer there. I feel like he's so successful, and it's something that you don't have control over. When you're still coming up like Dricus Du Plessis, you are willing to work the majority of your day, like your life can be dedicated to the sport because there are things you still want to achieve. But when you get to a level where Israel Adesanya is, it's the same issue that Conor McGregor is experiencing. You don't have to do all of that. You can now set a schedule and say, you know what, I train every day. I'm going to train maybe 6 hours in one day or maybe 4 hours in one day, and that, so that I can also enjoy my life. I know I'm a professional athlete, but I also want to enjoy the fruits of my labor, you know. So you are no longer as committed. That's why a lot of these Muslim fighters are dominating, because a lot of what they do during their careers is dedicated to actually training. They rarely have social lives. They have to prove who is the real African champion. Okay, I guess we'll just have to see. But essentially, that's basically my view on this particular fight. I feel like Israel, what do you call him? Dricus Du Plessis has a lot of, not a lot, but has a slight edge because of a variety of elements. When it comes to striking, obviously Israel Adesanya has the reach advantage, and because of his his kickboxing background, and obviously fight IQ, and we've seen he's able to use his reach to actually win a fight tit for tat. And obviously, pressuring Israel Adesanya is not always a good idea because he is very good at countering. So he might catch Dricus Du Plessis when he's busy pressuring. So obviously, Dricus Du Plessis cannot fight Israel Adesanya the same way he fought. Um, what do you call him, Sean Strickland? Because obviously, Sean Strickland does not have that as much power or ability to knock you out as Israel Adesanya. Well, I guess we saw him drop Israel Adesanya, but still, I mean, Adesanya was able to recover from that. So obviously, Strickland does not have the same finishing ability that Israel Adesanya has. So I understand that if Dricus Du Plessis is reckless, he's going to get finished. But people also forget that that's not how Dricus Du Plessis fought Robert Whittaker. I mean, Robert Whittaker was arguably up there with Alex Pereira and Israel, like the three best middleweights in my opinion. Before these new generation of fighters came, was Robert Whittaker, Israel Adesanya, and Alex Pereira. Those were probably the best strikers. And Dricus Du Plessis did not fight that way when he fought the African champ DDP. Why do you? I didn't want to speak about the African thing. So I think maybe plus I'm South African, so I feel like I'm the right person to actually speak about this. I didn't want to speak about this, but let me speak about it. Dricus Du Plessis is South African, right? There's no disputing that. The thing is, I understand why what Israel Adesanya is saying. He is not outrightly saying it, but I can hear that he's implying that Dricus Du Plessis is, or rather, what he's trying to say. So let me explain it by making an example. Let me let me say, for example, me, like you see, I'm black, right? Let's say I go to India. India does not have a UFC champion right now, right? I go to India with my girlfriend. We eventually get married. Um, we eventually get married, and then we have a child in India, right? That child becomes so good at fighting, he gets into the UFC. He rises up the ranks and becomes a champion. And then he says, "I am the real Indian, or rather, I'm the first Indian champion with two black mothers." Let's say I'm the father. My wife is also black, and all those type of things. And then my child from India says he is the first Indian champion. How would you guys look at it? Use the same situation. Let's say we move to China. We have a child there. Two black parents have a child in China, and then my child becomes so good, he becomes a UFC champion, and he says he is the first male Chinese to become a UFC champion. So I understand what he's saying, and that does not mean. I think the biggest issue with saying I'm African is because Africa is associated with race, right? When you say an African, we know you're speaking about a black person. Automatically, even on forms, you can see um, there are boxes. For example, there's white, black, Indian, colored. Sometimes it's not black, it's African. Like basically, so because you understand, okay, when it says African, it means you're black, or maybe those are the forms that we get in South Africa because we are basically African. Probably it's different overseas, but the point is, Africa is associated with race the same way India is associated with race, the same way China is associated with race, the same way um, I think Japan is associated with race. You can't if you're from America, America is not associated with race basically. The term America has no association with race. The term Canada has no association with race. Saudi Arabia has some association with race. So I understand what he was arguing for, but ultimately Dricus Du Plessis had a point. He was born in South Africa. He lives in South Africa, and technically, he is African. By definition, he is African. But I get why Israel Adesanya felt the way he did, because I just explained it. It's an uncomfortable topic to speak about, but anyway, in conclusion, Israel Adesanya might have a shot, but I feel like he has achieved everything he needed to achieve. Um, I feel like he is not as motivated as he once was. I don't feel like, irrespective of how much he trains, I don't feel like the. But I saw Israel Adesanya train in boxing, so maybe that might improve his ability to not get knocked out. But in all honesty, I don't want to. I don't want to underestimate Israel Adesanya, man. I wanted to say Israel, Dricus Du Plessis might knock him out, but I don't want to disrespect Israel Adesanya because he is exceptionally good. And even if he is 35 years old, it doesn't mean he isn't as good as he used to be. Um, I just feel like it's going to slow him down just enough for Dricus Du Plessis to find a way to get a win. And Israel Adesanya is good um, at distance or at range, but inside the pocket, I would favor Dricus Du Plessis, and I feel like this fight will take place inside the pocket. Basically means he will constantly be in Israel Adesanya's face. Okay, I'm contradicting myself because I said he wouldn't fight that way. I don't know, man, but Dricus Du Plessis, irrespective, he's a pressure fighter. He pushes you in order to find a way to win. And another important factor that I forgot to mention, when I was breaking down the fight between Leon Edwards versus Bilal Mohammed, I remember telling you guys that look at what DDHP. um, Nigerians will get mad if Drake wins. Expect another social media war. Yeah, I expected. Anyway, when I was breaking down the fight between Leon Edwards and Bilal Mohammed, I compared Bilal Mohammed's mindset and the Borderline Delusion with Juliana Pena as well as Dricus Du Plessis. These are the only three fighters that I feel like their belief in themselves influences their ability to win fights. The same thing, I remember actually saying this, I repeated it multiple times. Like, you can go to the live section of my channel and check my breakdown of Bilal Muhammad's fight between him and Leon Edwards. I specifically remember saying that Bilal Muhammad wins fights that he's not supposed to win, largely because he believes in himself and he believes in his ability to actually do those things to the point whereby it pushes him to get to a certain level. And how Bilal Muhammad wins these fights and it is inexplicable, because like I'm even speechless at this point. So when we talk about mental fortitude, who is going to be mentally strong enough to actually win this particular fight? I feel like that's Dricus Du Plessis. When we talk about cardio, I know a lot of people think Israel Adesanya has cardio. I don't think I don't think Israel Adesanya has good cardio. After the third round, Israel Adesanya is done. He's just going to coast to a decision. So I favor. When was the last time Israel Adesanya finished anyone in the fourth round or fifth round? Did that ever happen? I don't know. I started watching MMA somewhere around 2019, the UFC. So I can't recall specifically if Israel Adesanya has ever. No, man. I think I've watched all of Israel Adesanya's career in the UFC. I can't recall him finishing anyone in the fourth or fifth round. That has never happened. So for me, when it comes to cardio, I still favor Dricus Du Plessis. Obviously, reach goes to Israel Adesanya. Um, Technical skill goes to Israel Adesanya. Technical kickboxing. On the ground, I favor Dricus Du Plessis. And I know a lot of people will say, well, Israel Adesanya is not easy to take down. Yeah, he isn't. He isn't, but when you consider the fact that the fight will be more or less 50-50 on the feet, for me personally, I feel like the fight will be 50-50 on the feet. And look at what happened when the fight was 50-50 on the feet against Jan Blachowicz. So for me personally, I feel like the fact that the fight might be slightly close on the feet, the takedowns might be the difference maker. Um, I feel like it's difficult to prepare for someone who's very well rounded, because even if you prepare for the ground game too much, you are opening up yourself to getting knocked out. If you prepare too much on your striking, the probability of you getting taken down and submitted is high. I mean, Alex Pereira was able to take Israel Adesanya down. Marvin Vittori was able to take Israel Adesanya down. If Dricus Du Plessis gets the same opportunity, I feel like it's going to be a problem for Israel. Um, so each fight, so that's one of the reasons why I feel like it's going to be a very close fight, because each fighter has the ability to actually get it done. But I feel like Dricus Du Plessis wants it more. I feel like Dricus Du Plessis is a little bit more committed. He's early in his career. He hasn't achieved much. He's still trying to achieve greatness. Israel Adesanya does not have that desire to become great. Again, because he's a two-time middleweight champion. He's one of the richest fighters on the planet, one of the most famous fighters on the planet. He is 100% sure that he's going into the Hall of Fame. So there's nothing that should be driving him, or that will potentially drive him to achieve what he needs to achieve, right? So when we talk about who has a bigger or a higher reason to actually succeed, I'm leaning towards Dricus Du Plessis, man. Um, I feel like the fight is 50-50, but I'd say Dricus Du Plessis is 51%, for me, and Israel Adesanya is 49% out of 100. So Dricus Du Plessis has an advantage of like 2% in terms of all round things that could actually affect the fight and the outcome of the fight. I'm super excited about this fight. I'll do my upsets predictions on Friday. I apologize. Last week I didn't do them. So yeah, I'll do the full card predictions and breakdown. So yeah, slight breakdowns. But obviously, if you don't want to wait up until then, you can go to the shorts section on the channel. Just click shorts at the top, and then you'll find all my predictions there. Let me reply. Look at what DDP did to Whitaker. Pushed him, easily broke him. Yeah, I also agree. That's why I said that Dricus Du Plessis didn't fight Robert Whitaker the same way he fought Sean Strickland. Um, so and basically for me personally, Robert Whitaker is the same fighter as Israel Adesanya, with less reach and height, in my opinion. And obviously also a slight grappling ability. But as far as striking, I feel like Robert Whitaker and Israel Adesanya are more or less the same fighter. Just that Israel Adesanya is a little bit longer, and he knows how to use his length or height and reach. That's largely fundamentally the difference. But it should be an interesting fight. But officially, I'm picking Dricus Du Plessis. I feel like it's a close fight. My subscribers are picking Israel Adesanya. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. Go through the whole channel, especially the community section and the shorts section of the channel. I think you'll enjoy what you see there. Um, until Friday, I love and appreciate all of you. I think I might be doing an interview with the new um, EFC middleweight champion this week, but I'll tell you, you'll just see it randomly pop up. Go to playlists if you want to watch all the interviews that I've done so far. I mainly interview. Um, I've enjoyed your commentary and thoughts. Earn this a subscribe. Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Go to the shorts section, man. And go through all of that. That's where I post a lot of videos on the channel. The 10,000 the 10,000 subscribers that you see on the channel, it's because of the shorts. But the community section is also doing exceptionally well. I've introduced the IQ rankings. Go to the video section. There is an official video that ranks who has the fight IQ advantage on the card on UFC 305. So it ranks. The video starts off by actually showing you who was picked. The people who decide who has the highest fight IQ are my subscribers. I feel like it's better that way because it's a variety, it's a group of people as opposed to me and my individual opinion. Despite what I know about the sport, I feel like a group of people, especially who follow a channel like mine, my channel is statistics based. So I feel like a lot of my subscribers are knowledgeable, a little bit knowledgeable about fighting. So I prefer for them to be the ones to actually decide who has the highest fight IQ, and I agree with a lot of what they decide. So there's so many things that are useful on the channel. So if you want to see the fight IQ rankings, just click on the channel and then go to video, and then you'll see it. It's the third or fourth video under videos under the video section. It's the fight IQ rankings. I think you'll enjoy that. Under the shorts section, you'll see statistics for all the fighters. Um, of every upcoming card, I upload the statistics and I upload my full predictions um, a week before the actual card. So the official and final predictions for UFC 305, I uploaded them last week Saturday, and the predictions for the next card will be uploaded this Saturday. So go through the entire the entire channel. I think the community section is where the subscribers get to vote on, what do you call it, fight IQ. who they feel like is going to win. And the subscribers have been significantly accurate with their predictions because last week they got the 10 fights correct out of 13. And then this past week they got 9 fights out of 10 correct. Last week I got 11 out of 13 correct. And then this past week I got 8 out of 10 correct. So the subscribers pick is significantly accurate. So if you want to participate in voting who you feel like has the highest fight IQ, go to the community section. Who you feel like has the probability of winning the fight, go to the community section. So the every section of my channel is very very useful. Even the playlist section, you'll find the interviews that I've done. I only interviewed the champions from the EFC or the main eventers. So it's not like people down on the card. It's either champions or main event and co-main event. Those are the only people I interview. You'll see um, a playlist of my top 20 of the greatest fighters of all time. I think you'll enjoy that on the playlist section on the channel. So, and then you'll see I created an awards show called the Combat Sports Awards. Even that, my subscribers are the one who basically vote for who they feel like will win this year. The awards will be in December. My subscribers will be the one who will be voting for that. There's so much on the channel, man. So I appreciate the love. I appreciate the subscribe. I appreciate the subscription. I'll see you guys Friday. Until next time, deuces. I'll see you in the comment section. Sharp.